Now, even after you switch to jaw, the volume of air is going to continue to be compressed. So you'll notice in the beginning, your jaw will be quite open and you won't have to close it very much in order to create the pressure. But then as you continue descending, as the volume of air is reduced, you'll have to close your jaw more and more and more in order to create enough pressure to equalize your ears. Before the jaw closes, what you would do is take the remaining air, bring that behind the tongue, and then seal the tongue up into T-lock. T-lock is the tongue sealed just behind the roof of the mouth, just behind the teeth. So here, this is T-lock. There's 3 different locks that we will use: T, K, and H. We use T first because T allows us the largest amount of volume behind the tongue. So when we first switch to T, we're allowing all the air to come behind the tongue. As that air is then compressed, we'll go into K because this reduces the volume behind the tongue. And again, when that is compressed, we go into H. And don't worry, I'm going to describe which each of these locks are now. So as I described, this is the T-lock. The tongue is sealed up just behind the teeth against the hard palate. And it's the outside of the tongue sealed just behind the teeth, so this part of the tongue. As the volume of air is reduced, we'll then have to compensate for that reduction in volume, which is when we switch into K. Now, K-lock is the part of the tongue which we practiced at the beginning when the tongue is sealed up against the soft palate. So it's the exact same position as we practiced. So it would look more like this. So this movement, the same part of the tongue is sealed against the exact same part of the soft palate. So this back part of the tongue sealed against the soft palate. What this has done, it's reduced the space behind the tongue, so we'll still be able to create positive pressure and equalize our ears. As the volume is then reduced further, we simply leave the tongue in the same position. The same part of the tongue is sealed. The only difference is we slide it further back. So it would go from there to like here. And that's what's known as H. H-lock, it's kind of, your tongue will be in the same position as if you make the sound like it being choked, like it's really far back in the throat. This is simply reducing the volume behind the tongue and allowing you to continue equalizing to depth. The movement from K to H just feels like you're sliding the tongue up and down the soft palate. And if you did it with your mouth open, it would look like this. The trickiest thing for people once you start using the tongue is realizing that it's okay that the volume of the air is reducing and resisting the temptation to do a reverse pack, which is going to be very hard for people who reverse pack instinctively. So a very good exercise is to bring up air behind the tongue. It's called an N charge. So it's similar to the M charge where you fill your mouth fill, except you leave the tongue sealed and you just fill the throat. So it would look like this. Then what you would do is slowly let the air out of the nose, and you practice moving from the T-lock into the K-lock into the H-lock. And you want the air coming out of your nose to be very, very slow as possible. So it should look like this. Then once you feel like you've moved the tongue as far back as it can, you then stop. There's always the temptation to bring more air up at that point, but you have to break that cycle and understand that once all the air is gone, that's it, and you don't try and bring up more air. Again, you can practice this with different amounts of air in the mouth. So see how it feels to switch to using the T-lock earlier than what you feel like you should, see how it is to switch later, and see which one feels more comfortable for you. Now you're capable of charging, using all the different locks. The trickiest thing is realizing when it's time to use the different locks in order to equalize. So the best thing to do is to practice using the mouthfill and all the different locks in one go. So you do a full charge, slowly let the air out your nose, and just manage that reduction of volume until there's no air left for you to equalize. So it would look like this. Obviously, the longer you can make it last, the more realistic it's gonna be. Because a mouthfill, it's gonna last about 1.5 to 2 minutes if you're doing a really, really deep dive.